Over time, as we lead our churches, we can easily not see or miss out on things that are extremely important to new people and new guests. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to share with you 6 extremely important things that new people want that churches easily miss.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting. My name is Brian Androsian, and with me is Dylan Dodson. And today we're going to give you 6 extremely important things that new people want that churches easily miss.
Easily miss.
Easily miss, yeah.
That you can easily fix.
Yep.
And this episode today is brought to you by the Church Co., the best and fastest and cleanest church website builder for churches. We use them for our website. We use them for Practical Church Planting's website. So thechurchco.com, go check them out. And if you go to thechurchco.com/practical, you can get 40% off your first, not 1, but 2 years. Just make sure you put the word practical in the promo code.
Yes.
And Easter's coming up. Get yourself a new website before Easter, because almost all of the new people that are going to come to your church on Easter are going to look at your website first.
Yes. The benefit of Church Co. is even if you have no knowledge or experience in website building, it is super easy.
Yep.
Plug and play.
Plug and play. And it's faster and less expensive than Squarespace, all the other things, and they have great support. So thechurchco.com/practical, practical at checkout for 40% off your first 2 years. Of course, you can reach out to them with any questions. We highly recommend them.
Yes.
So here are extremely important things new people want, churches easily miss. Some of these things we've talked about in various episodes. This episode is focused on what happens when you go to your church often or wherever you guys meet. You can overlook things because you're used to seeing them, or you can misunderstand how important it is because you like the church, you like the people, like not everything's going to be perfect. So in your mind, it's like, yeah, that's not great, but everything else is good.
Yeah.
When you're a new person, you don't know the church, you don't know the people, and you see everything with fresh eyes. And so these are things that are really, really important that we can overlook that also don't take a lot of effort and can make a big difference.
I think that's the key.
And so some of these things you might think of, some of them you might not have thought of before, but even these ones that you might have thought of before, hopefully this episode would encourage you to evaluate these things to make sure you're doing them.
Yep.
Because part of the reason we're doing this episode is these are things that I see very often in church websites and other things and talking to other people that don't take a lot of time. I think one of the things we talk about often here on this podcast is just being intentional with your time, what you're doing, and not just assuming, oh, things fall through the cracks, I don't have time to do it. Well, if you put on your calendar, you prioritize it, you will get it done.
Yeah.
And these things are really important. So here's the first one. Number 1, having your website up to date. Now, everybody would say this is important, but so many church websites have the launch date, and the launch date was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And that's still the main thing. And so a website up to date, there are a lot of things that don't change, but I have 3 things in mind that you need to check every week if you don't have a system of doing this, just to make sure they're up to date, particularly if you have someone else in charge of it. Now, again, the Church Co., which we talk about here, is a great great thing about them is this takes so little time to do.
Yeah.
If you've created your own website or use another website builder where maybe it's plug and play, but you still have to adjust everything and put everything in, you might be like, well, it's just too much effort. So you need something that'll reduce the friction. But here are the things that you need to make sure that are always up to date. Any events you have going on, your sermons updated every week, and past events removed from your website.
Yes.
Now, again, this is not a promotion. This is not a commercial for the Church Co. It's just that's who we use. And one of the things that's really great about there is now, if you want to see how our website works, it's the newcityrdu.com/ No, this is newcityrdu.com.
Yeah.
And so
whatever you want.
what happens is on our main page, if you scroll down a little bit, it shows our upcoming events. And the nice thing is that when you put a date, at least in the Church Co., once the event is gone, it automatically removes it from your website.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
And so you just scroll down, here are the upcoming events, and they're gone. Now, if you've manually inputted something about Easter because that's coming up or whatever, you've got text on the website, on your homepage or whatever, you've got to take that off when it's done. But that's going to be helpful. Is events, sermons need to be updated every week. It is a big deal. If everyone watches and listens to things online, they're going to check it out. Even if you don't have a camera yet and you're just doing the audio, you should update it. Even if people aren't going to click on the sermons, if they see you haven't uploaded stuff in months or it's really spotty, that's just weird.
Yeah.
People assume that you're going to have this taken care of. And so, events, make sure they're taken off when they're done. And I mean, set a reminder that night or the next day, update the website.
Yep.
That's what I do when we have Christmas or Easter, something where I'm actually changing the homepage. I will set a reminder that night. Oh, change the website because so people are looking at it.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things that do not take a lot of time, but they're so missed. And it just comes across as if you can't keep your website updated, then you've probably got other stuff going on, or it's just confusing.
Mm-hmm.
It can just be confusing for people. So updated events. Again, also, if you haven't planted yet, but you're like saying, here's our next event on your website, again, set a reminder when you've passed it to take it off and put the next one on. Or if you don't have a next one yet, just don't put anything on there. But it just comes across as not being on top of things if you leave events past due, overdue on your website.
I mean, here's the thing. In this practical church planting world, we've both had the pleasure of meeting a lot of church planters and being exposed to different church plants. And the unfortunate part is a lot of them end up going under. Not a number end up going under, whether they don't plant or they plant and then fold. And if someone's not updating their website or has nothing updated, it's really hard to tell if they're still in existence, to be honest. And because I know of church plants that have closed their doors, but their websites are still active just because they haven't expired yet or whatever. And there are times where this church plant that has closed their doors, their website looks no different than a church plant that I know hasn't closed their doors because nothing's being updated. And like, not to like make this sound overly dramatic, but if I know someone is moving to an area, I'm not going to recommend a church that I don't see things happening, because I honestly don't know if they're still meeting, especially when we're talking about like a brand new church plant. And so these are things that are really easy to update, even if you don't have an event coming up, just removing past events. Hopefully you're able to have sermons from very early / day one. I mean, we'd suggest it as early as possible. And that's a very easy way to tell that you're still meeting. But this is the kind of thing that it takes very little effort, but it's very, very obvious when it's not done. And I think it's a really huge deterrent when it's not done.
Yeah, I think especially the events thing of like highlighting something like a Christmas service that was 2 months ago, or like it just, to me, like I could not, even if I really like the people at the church, I know you're probably going to look at the website before you go. It'd be really hard for me to recommend, which that might sound really surface level, but it's just people want the correct information. And if you can't take 5 minutes to update that, that's just not good. And it's something that everybody looks at. And so extremely important. Churches easily miss because we see it all the time. Website, sermons. I mean, again, it might be a simple thing of like use a recurring task every Monday morning. Just double check the website, make sure everything's good, or Tuesday morning, whatever it is, once a week, just to make sure everything's up there, because it will confuse people if it is outdated.
And if you want to see how extra important this is, when we were, I've told a story before, but just very briefly, when we were looking for a church plant to join along with before New City launched, I was looking in the Raleigh area, and the literally only reason that we contacted New City, didn't know Dylan, didn't know any of these people, was because it was the only church plant, like we want a specific church plant that I could find in the area that was updated, website-wise and social media-wise. There were others we found that I couldn't tell if they were still meeting. I hadn't updated in a while, had old events, things like that, and I couldn't tell if they were still in existence. The literal only thing that drew us to New City. I mean, there are other reasons we stayed, obviously, but the reason
you wouldn't have shown up.
The reason for the initial email saying, "Hey, we want to meet you guys," was because it was the only church plant we could find that the website was updated. So this is important to people.
And this was 4 to 5 months before we launched. So if you're pre-launch, this is how important it is.
Yep.
Not that you'll get like a staff member necessarily, but like just people won't show up if they're confused. So website up to date, events and sermons are the easy things that are often missed. Number 2, a consistent social media presence. Now we have talked a lot about social media stuff throughout these episodes, so I'll quickly highlight 2 things. Our most recent one was episode 255, where we share different types of online content that you can do every week. And the second thing you can do, if you haven't received it yet, if you go to practicalplanting.com, we send a weekly newsletter. That, honestly, if you don't like it, you can opt out of. But if you put your email in, we send you a free Church Planter's Guide to Social Media that literally walks you through the types of posts and even how to get them, how to create them, what third-party places that you can use to help give you content that that we use as well. So practicalplanting.com. Just subscribe to the newsletter. You can get that totally for free, and you can just unsubscribe if you don't want the email. Like, it's not going to hurt our feelings. We just want to help. Or episode 255 is our most recent one on it. Again, this is one of those things where I know the people, I know the church, like we've got good people, like, it's nice to have social media stuff, but it's not that big of a deal. And again, it is extremely, like, not what you want. In fact, last night, this is where it can kind of confuse me. I got a Facebook ad or promotion or whatever on my Facebook feed from a church in our area. It was like I can't remember if it was just like an invitation to the church or it was like a sermon, like they just boosted their sermon or their weekend service, like to invite. It basically was like, it was just like getting the word out about the church. So, as one does when they look at these things a lot, I clicked on their Facebook page because I've heard of the church. I know they're kind of smaller church. I'm like, oh, let's see what they do. So I clicked their Facebook page because I'm on Facebook and it's a Facebook ad, and they post once a week, and it's just their live stream.
Oh yeah.
You can go back. I only scrolled for like 6 weeks ish worth because it was like very obvious.
Yeah.
The only thing they posted was their live stream. So I'm just like, you're paying money to have people go to your, church website, but also Facebook page, and you have nothing on there but watch our live stream.
Yep.
I'm like, to me, I'm like, this is like, don't pay. Like, do not point people to here.
Yeah.
Because again, what can happen is like we like the church, and so we feel like it's not that big of a deal. Again, if these are things that are extremely important to new people, to go to the Facebook page, they're not going to read all your past posts, but it's like, oh, they're active.
Yeah.
Which again, that's how Brian and Brittany
Exactly.
found someone that was active.
Yep.
And it is, I think it can be intimidating, especially if you're not a social media person, which is why the newsletter, these episodes are to show you, like, I've been doing it for a while, so I know it's not the same, but it takes me 30 to 45 minutes to plan our social media out, and we do a post a day, every day. Sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, every day. Now, granted, part of that is, Brian has to edit the videos, so it's kind of a two-man team thing here for some of the stuff that we do. But in terms of like scheduling it doesn't take that long once you start doing it for a while. And it's a big deal. Again, I always say it's not like you're going to post a million things on social media and all these people are going to come to your church. It is slow, consistent, but also just shows people that you're there and that you find this stuff important because people are already there as well. And so it needs to be consistent. Now, consistent can be twice a week or 3 times a week for now as you're getting started out, but it can't just be come to this event and watch this sermon, because it just shows that you're not really trying to connect with people. And so it's just hard because it seems like it doesn't matter that much, but if you want to connect with new people, you have to prioritize
it. We're in kind of the day and age everyone kind of knows you have to be on social media for, like, you have to have a page. Okay. Yeah. And I feel like everyone knows that, but I feel like it's almost to the point where there's some pages that we see that it's like, it wouldn't be, but it's like, it would almost be better to not have one. Yeah. Not literally. I mean, I think you kind of have to have one so people, when they search, they see something, but there's some that I follow that, like, I mean, obviously we're not looking for a church, but there's some that, like, I genuinely want to know what the church is like. And maybe it's because I know someone in the area or know people in the area, or it's kind of in our area. And if they don't come to New City, obviously I want to be able to point them somewhere else. I have no idea what it's like because nothing ever gets posted other than here's our times tomorrow on Saturday, or like join us for church tomorrow. And like, and there's some of these churches, I can think of a few that obviously, like, I'm not attending. I doubt I'll ever attend just because obviously I'm here, but like, I know exactly when their churches meet. And I could tell you right now when their churches meet and like the area and everything, just because they post that so often, but I don't know anything about the church itself. I don't know. Nothing is ever posted that's like giving back to the people following or anything. It's just like, come to us. It comes across as very selfish social media wise. Yeah. And people see that. And so I think if you're not giving anything back, and honestly, like, we're in 2022. We're at the point, like, you can be terrible at social media, but there are so many free and paid resources out there that you can't be bad at social media anymore. Like,
inexpensive.
Inexpensive.
Like, so for example, we've used a couple. We use Sunday Social right now. Just Google it. It's like $10-15 a month or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's totally worth it.
And like, I totally get if you end up posting things that don't look the best. And obviously there's room for improvement. You're not going to be better as good as everybody else. But there's I think we're past the time where you can use the excuse of, I just don't know how it works, or it's just not my thing, and so we're just not going to post anything. And there's, to me, that comes across as I haven't even looked to see what's out there, because there's so much out there that like does 90% of the work for you and can make things go from like 0 to 90%, overnight, and does a ton of the work for you. So you just have to find these resources, and they're out there.
And to encourage you, your goal is not to have the best social media. Ours is not the best,
Nope.
but it's consistent, and you get better and you figure things out over time. Mm-hmm. And so, again, you might not think it's a big deal, but for a new person, they're going to almost everyone's going to look at your social media and or website. Definitely, most likely your website if they find you on social media before they go, or even if somebody invites them, they're going to look these things up. I would look these things up.
Yep.
And so you've got to find a way to do those. So again, episode 255, listen to that one after this one if you haven't, or practicalplanting.com. Just submit your email address and you'll get the Church Planner's Guide to Social Media, it's a great place to start, and then you can tweak things as you go.
And I don't know if we mentioned it in 255. That was a while, or it wasn't terribly long ago, but I don't think we did. This is just like a little. I see this a ton, and this so little tip. Nobody needs a Saturday night reminder to go to church. At least maybe once a year. Like people don't forget that, or they're not going to see a social media post and be like, "Oh, church, that's right. Put it on my calendar." And it's just there's just a lot of posts like that I see from multiple, not just from one, but like from multiple places that just come across as very like needy and self-serving and not giving anything back. And so you don't have to use this as a platform to try and convince people that your church is the best or to come to you. It's just it's a platform to give back to people and to create awareness.
And the flip side of that, if you do post somewhat consistently and then you do post on Saturday, hey, join us tomorrow.
Exactly.
It doesn't come across as like, please come. It's like, oh, they've been giving me stuff all week. They post all the time. It's not like they're only posting because they want something from me.
Yeah.
So like for us, again, we talked about the other episode. We have like our main point that we post about during the week. We've got the message. We do a clip of the message. We do this Bible in a minute thing. I try to do once a week on Facebook and Instagram, like a fun poll or something like that. Like they're just like we're consistent. And so when they see on Sunday, hey, we'd love to see you, whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, that's just what they do. They communicate with me, not just when they want something. So, number 2. Number 3 is a clean facility, which again, we all kind of know we want it to be clean, but then we all kind of like, we're used to seeing it. We don't see it with fresh eyes. We enjoy being there. We know like, oh, maybe we don't have enough people to serve this week, or something happened this week, or the building that we're in, something broke. Like we know all the reasons why our place isn't perfectly tidy and clean, everything the way we want it. A new person does not know these things.
Yep.
And so when they come and they see lots of things out of the way that there should be, it sticks with them. And I would say even if you're renting a space, obviously you have a little bit more, I don't know, forgiveness by somebody, because it's like, yeah, this is not theirs. Mm-hmm. But it comes across of like, what can you do to make it as organized as possible? Because you don't see the ceiling tile that has the water stain on it, or the spider web in the bottom corner on the floor. Or the bathroom that's got toilet paper like behind the toilet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you do, but you just don't think anything of it because like it is what it is. A new person sees that and it sticks out to them. And so having a place that is clean makes a massive difference if a new person actually shows up to your church.
Yeah, and I think clean goes for like literal cleanliness and also organized and things not looking like a mess. And so so our facility here, we have floors that are very I don't know how you describe our floors. Rustic, sure. That's a good way to put it. They're kind of like garage floor kind of floors is the way I think about it. But
it's like a light brown.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like it's weird to describe it because there's tons of scuffs, scratches, whatever. But it's almost like it's intended to be that way. Yeah. But it's very easy if we're not careful for our floors and stuff to look dirty because they're not like, I don't know. They're kind of rustic looking to begin with. And so but we're here every day. And so it's super easy to just not notice. And we've kind of gone through different iterations of what it looks like to have cleaning teams and things throughout the years. And we've just noticed that if anyone's doing one thing consistently, it's easy to miss. If we have one person's going to clean the lobby every week, eventually it's going to be real easy for them to kind of miss the baseboards or, whatever, just a very basic thing. And so it helps to make sure this is something that you're looking for all the time because it's not a knock against anybody, but you'll get comfortable kind of in the dirtiness of it because you're there all the time and things, someone who's coming once a week may see things with a little bit fresher eyes than someone who's there every single day. And so whether that means getting someone in to help you kind of identify these problem areas that you have or asking some volunteers to help clean, which I guarantee you have people that would say yes to it. Everybody does because some people care about that more than others, especially if you're not someone who thinks that's super important. And occasionally you can ask people what they, how the space looks. We have the room we're recording right now. All you can see is us, but it's not the most organized room in the world. Right there. If you're watching a video, if you're on the podcast to our left, which is off screen, is kind of honestly like a mess. It's a roughly organized mess. But this is a room that stays shut on Sundays. If this is a room we used all the time, then this would be a big problem. Or if this is a room that people kind of walked in and out of. And so it's identifying some of these problem areas, and then if you're not the most organized person in the world, ask someone, how can I help? How can I get better organized?
Yep.
And you have people in your church that are happy to do this kind of thing.
What Brian is saying is either make it clean or make it so dirty that it looks like it's intentionally supposed to look that way.
Exactly.
No, so for us, we have our own space, and so we'll do some stuff during the week, but we also Sunday morning have that's one of our serve positions.
Yep.
Is like setup, and we don't have tear down setup, and so I mean, if you do, I mean, that's an extra position. But for us, clean. Our space isn't big, and so literally one person could do it. Typically, one person, and then Brittany, who leads our hospitality stuff, she helps out as well, and makes sure everything looks good. Here's how we do it. We have a laminated printed checklist. Because we have learned it doesn't matter. People won't do it, or they'll forget. Especially if different people every week have a laminated checklist that they can check off. Like just have them do it. Nobody doesn't get to use the checklist because things will be missed. Of everything that you need to be done, as they do it, they check it off, so it ensures everything is clean. Yep. And so that's out there. I would also say, depending on what your space looks like for us, we have pins, Bibles, and Connect cards in all of our seats. It gets kind of annoying to have to check that all the time, but we do.
Yeah.
And so I set it during the week, but then we have a couple churches that run our space. And so by Sunday morning, things are kind of moved. And so the chairs are all straight. There's pins, a Bible, and a Connect card in the Bible, and every seat back. And again, this is one of those things where, I mean, think of going to traditional churches with the pews, and they've got the Bibles and the pencils, and whether you're going there for a church or for an event or a wedding or whatever, it's, you see there's a Bible here, and then there's not another one for another place. And it has a Connect card thing, but there's no pencils. Double check all these things, because again, for new people, they notice that. Yeah. And it would just be really unfortunate if you're oh, well, those two seats are the only two seats that don't have whatever stuff. If we put stuff near our seats or in the seat backs, they don't have it. Well, what if that's where a new person sits? And for us, you have to make it as easy as possible for new people to connect. That's why we put the Connect cards in the seat back in front, so we can say just during the service, grab it, fill it out right now. Otherwise, the chances of doing it are a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So anyway, it needs to be clean. It needs to be organized. It might not be that big of a deal to you because you see it all the time, but I guarantee you it's a big deal to a new person. And so having a process to make sure that gets looked at every Sunday is a big deal.
Yep. And this is the kind of thing where you can get people to help out with this during the week, but this doesn't replace needing it Sunday morning. In other words, So we were approached, or I was approached a couple months ago by a woman in our church who said that the church she came from, they had a cleaning team, and this helped them not have to pay for a cleaning service, And she was wondering if we could start something like that. And something we've done in our old space, we haven't really done it here. And so I contacted a handful of people, and all but one of them said yes. And so I picked one basically and said, "You're in charge, because I can't be here to do this. So if you guys want to do this, this is the person in charge. If you don't want to do it, we're just going to keep doing things the way they were." But some of these people had said things like, "The place is dirty." And so I was like, problem solved. And they've been doing it. It just, as we're recording this yesterday, they were over cleaning our kids' space. However, this doesn't get rid of the need to do it Sunday morning. Yeah. In other words, they come in during the week, or maybe they do it after. They generally do it after church on Sunday. You still have a whole week of you in there, or if it's a portable space, then other people in there, or whatever. But so Sunday morning, that position always has to be there, of organizing the space, cleaning up, restocking toilet paper, all that junk. But that always has to be there on Sunday morning, and that's one of the most important things.
Yep. Really, really important for new people that show up.
Yep.
Number 4, a smooth kids check-in process. So again, they're your kids. If church's kids, they get it.
Yep.
It should be smooth anyway. Hopefully, it's pretty smooth. But if for a new person, I mean, it's a intimidating and it can be a nerve-wracking thing, depending on the parent, to drop their kids off somewhere when they don't know anybody, particularly if they're new to church.
Yeah.
And even if they were invited or whatever, they're still having to leave their kids. And so a process to make it smooth, simple, and easy. One of the ways that we do it, that I would recommend that you do it as well, is on your website. If you have a kids page, which you should, if you have kids ministry, you can give people the option to pre-register online. Now, again, if this is an option, you need to make sure, for us, it's just a form, and that's on our website that gets sent to Brittany, our kids director, and then she has to, manually put it in. It doesn't do it automatically. Although I'm sure based on, church software and stuff, there might be a way that it does it manually.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure it's checked Sunday morning, so that people get notifications properly. But that's an easy way to do it. Not that everyone does it online either, but it's just it shows that they take proactiveness to this. But Sunday morning, it needs to be very clear where to go, who to talk to, that you at least have somebody there that can see when parents are coming in if they look confused, but don't just put a computer up and have nobody there and assume people are going to figure it out, because a lot of parents are already unsure or nervous if they're dropping a kids off for the first time, and if it's not really clear and easy to do, they might not drop their kids off, and they might drop their kids off, but they'll be thinking about their kids the whole time during the service and might not come back, even if everything else is great. And I've seen this a lot, or maybe a lot's not fair, in churches that I've been a part of, where the drop-off process is kind of confusing and weird. So I mean, make sure the kids check-in process is really smooth,
and make sure you have someone there to help facilitate the process. So this literally is we're in the midst of this happening right now at New City. We used to have, for kids check-in, we used to have these tablets, and at the time we had no money, and so we cheaped out crazy on the tablets, and so they barely worked. Like they were brand new, but it's like new Android tablets, which take like a year to boot up and stuff. So we used them for a little bit of time, and they really weren't working very well, and so we kind of went to a different process during COVID and coming out of COVID and stuff. And then we just recently switched to using these tablets that work better and a wireless printer and things like that. So it's very similar to the way we've always done it, but it's a little bit different. And I cannot tell you the number of families that come in, even families that have been around for a long time. And our space is very like, you walk in, you walk straight, and there's two things right there that say like name, and you type in name, and the printer. Like if you've ever been to a church, it's super simple. It's the same way everybody does it. But even just yesterday, which on Sunday, which I was over there helping check people in, guy came. He's been coming for a number of months, and as he walked in, he didn't know what to do, because it was his first. He hadn't been since we made the switch over, or he hadn't brought his kids. And like, you think that things are super easy, and they are. And if he walked in, I'm sure if he stumbled around it long enough, he could figure it out. But he was also trying to wrangle all of his kids and all this stuff. And so if I wasn't there saying, hey, let me help you out and show you what this new system is, then it would have just created an extra kind of stressor that Sunday morning. So have a simple system and have someone there to help facilitate it. Because even if you think it's the simplest thing in the world, and it probably is, it's not to someone who's brand new, and they may not have seen this before. And so no matter how much you simplify it, make sure you have someone there that can also help walk a new person through what this process is.
Yeah, especially if it's like one spouse normally does it, so another spouse does it, or
good
like
point,
a grandparent that's there that weekend that does it, or whatever. And you have your kids there, you don't want to feel dumb, especially if you've got a lot of kids going around and there's maybe a couple families trying to check in at once. Mm-hmm. If it's not smooth, it'll it would leave a bad taste in their mouth, but also make it hard for them to focus on the service, because they're probably thinking about what just happened there.
Yeah, exactly.
So smooth check-in process. Again, on your website, what you can do is just make an online form. Again, we use the ChurchCo, and you can make forms with questions, and you can have them being emailed to somebody as soon as it's done. So like Brittany, our kids director, we just have a form. She gets all the information that somebody would fill out if it was their first time at the church. So she can do it ahead of time. So when they come on Sunday, all they have to do is check in like a normal person would, and not have to do all that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Smooth check-in form. Number 5, acknowledgement that new people might actually be there.
Even if they're not.
And yeah, this is a thing we talk about all the time, and I know it's a struggle with smaller churches. You might feel awkward doing it, but just to remind you that most people don't know everybody, nor are they paying attention. Mm-hmm. So they're not looking around and be like, "There's not a new person here today." Like nobody does that. And if you are new, doesn't matter how big or small, you think you're the only new person there, and so just having an acknowledgement, hey, that there are people like me here, makes me feel a lot better, that they know that I'm not. That they expect that not everyone's going to know what's going on. They're not going to know everybody. If there's things in the service that I don't really understand, like they anticipate having new people there, which is really comforting. And so for us, how we do it in a really non-awkward way, during our announcements, we call them Next Steps every Sunday. The first one, it takes like 30 minutes. We do it every week. It's the first one we do when we do Next Steps, is our Connect card. Here it is. See back in front of you. Fill it out. Drop it off the teal wall on your way out. Chick-fil-A gift card, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that, hey, we know there's new people like you. And we say it all the time. Now, sometimes we start our service with Next Steps. Sometimes we do it after the first song. Earlier, like this year in January when COVID, and we had like 3 weeks where there was snow on the weekend in a row. And for the first week, I don't know this to be true, but we might have been the only church in all of Raleigh that had a service.
I think we were,
because everybody canceled, and we were like, why not? I mean, you can stay home, live stream.
Yeah.
So like, there are times like when there was for us. I mean, it gets all relative. Like for us, there was I think 40 people that came that Sunday, like in the auditorium.
Yeah.
And like when we started the service, like there was There actually was
There was
a couple
new
of people.
yeah.
But like it was one of those things where it's kind of awkward to say this because is there anyone new?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're sitting in the crowd, you're probably not paying attention. You're probably like, there's not a new person here.
Yeah.
You know, there was. It's just something we do. So do it every week. That's how we do it. And then at the end of service, we end our service by saying, again, if you're new with us, fill this out. Here's how you can give. We say the bottom line, you are sent. It takes like 90 seconds. But again, it's just a reminder that we expect new people to be here, and they might not do anything. They might not fill out a Connect card. They might leave as soon as service is over. But at least while they were there, they might come back too, hopefully. But while they're there, they're not thinking no one else is like me here. They expect to have people like me here, and so it's really important. Again, for you, it's like you like your church, you like your people, everyone's friendly, or so you think.
Yeah.
If you're a new person, you don't know anybody, it's intimidating. Even if you've been to church your whole life, it's still intimidating to go somewhere new for the first time. So acknowledging new people is really important that churches can easily miss.
And it helps new people know what to do. I mean, it's kind of just like the check-in process for kids. Like your process might be super simple of what a new person does, fill out a Connect card, take it to a Connect table or something, and get a present or something, whatever. But that's not common for everybody. Like, especially if they haven't been in church forever or been in maybe a different style church. And so they may want to connect and just have no idea how. I don't think most people, if they're not told how, unless they like are just dying to connect with the church, most people are not going to seek out someone to explain to them how to get more plugged in. And so if you just kind of explain every week, just kind of plug it in as part of your service. We acknowledge that new people are here, or they may be here. And if you're new, if you want to connect, this is how you do it. This is where you go. Like, I mean, we've said this in other episodes, but if you have a Connect table and it doesn't say Connect, you need to actually tell them what that actually means. You know, we have a wall painted teal, so we don't say go to the Connect table. We say go to the teal wall, because if you're not a church person, Connect table means nothing. And so tell people exactly what to do if they're newer. But if you don't acknowledge them, if you don't tell them what to do, then you can't be like bummed out about your lack of retention or that new people aren't getting connected, because it's up to us to actually explain to them what needs to be done.
Yep. So acknowledging new people is really important. Don't assume they're going to fill out, again, the Connect card or whatever you're wanting from them. This is also why we put it in the seat backs, because saying, hey, after service, go and do this is very rare that people are going to, especially because it could be awkward to fill out in front of someone.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't seen it. Like, how much information do I want to give? They're staring at me, so I feel like I have to do all these things. Acknowledging new people are there is extremely important, and making it easy to connect is also helpful as well.
And if what we've experienced, I don't know if this is true across the board, but we have a lot of people fill out our Connect cards maybe their second time.
Yep.
Not always their first time. And so if you're literally playing the game of, I'll say something if I see new people there, you may not actually acknowledge someone who they're ready to connect now, and they may not have remembered the instructions you gave last week.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're not actually basing on who you see. But people definitely fill things out second, third, fourth time actually coming once they're actually sure this is where they want to be.
Which is why, as a pro tip, we do not say if this is your first time.
Yep.
You should say if you are new with us, because many people don't fill it out their first time. And so then they feel like, well, I didn't fill out my first week, I'll never fill it out.
Yep.
And so if you're new with us, you can judge what you think new means.
Yeah.
You're more likely to get Connect cards that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And then last but not least, number 6, extremely important, churches easily miss. Proper follow-up. We've talked about follow-up a lot on this podcast. We use Text in Church. It's just an automated system. They're guaranteed to get a couple of texts and emails over the next couple of weeks. Nobody's ever complained. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, are they going to get ignored? No one's ever complained about it.
Yeah.
It's going to eventually, over the course of those weeks, give them just the highlighted points of things that they should know and things that they can do to take their next step in a new city. And of course, on the Connect card, if someone also, like, if they just fill it out, everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And then if they also check like partnership or community groups or whatever, we will that week, the person who's over whatever they filled out will reach out to them as well. Now, they'll get some of that information at some point during the text and emails that we'll send them over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we don't want to wait, because again, if somebody asks for information and you don't give it to them right away, it just seems like, do you not care?
Yeah.
And so whatever that is, we, as always say, doesn't matter how small your church is, you should make this automated. Do not make this rely on a single person to do it. Part of this is we recommend more than 1 week of follow-up. And so trying to remember, is this week 1, 2, or 3? It can be really confusing.
Yeah.
Now, you might have manual things that you can't automate. We just do text and emails to get a couple of texts and get a couple of emails over the 3 weeks. Let's say you want to write up a letter. That's totally fine. You need to have someone that has like every Monday, it's part of their tasks of like, write the letter, make sure they're getting the stuff and make sure it's actually getting done. Don't just assume. But because we would recommend more than 1 week of follow-up or more than one email or one letter, you've got to have a process that you can trust is going to happen. And getting something automated like Text in Church, there's other ones out there. you don't have to like wonder where you are, and you're gonna be guaranteed that they will hear from you.
And the good thing about being automated is everyone gets followed up with in the exact same way. There's not, if they came on a good week, then they get something better. If they came on a week that I was a little overwhelmed, then I kind of missed out. It's regardless, no matter when they come, what's going on at the church, everyone gets the exact same thing. And if you want to add something, then fine. Like if you want to add a letter or whatever. Yep. But the good thing about being automated is everyone gets the exact same thing. And I've talked to people where you can kind of know that this is going to be a struggle if they talk about what's the they struggle with retention a little bit or whatever. If you ask them what their follow-up process is, if you start with anything like well or whatever, like it's our follow-up process is they get a number of texts and emails, and it's all automated, so it takes no thought. But if you're like, well, our follow-up process is, if you're kind of if you're thinking about that for yourself and you can't give a concrete answer that everybody gets, then I think that's a problem. And I think if you're struggling with people coming back or retaining new people, this is the number one place to look. And once you solve this, then you can start looking elsewhere. But if this is still a problem, I don't think you need to start looking at solving all the other issues first. It's what's your follow-up process like? Are you following up with people? Is it consistent? Is everyone getting followed up with the exact same way? And if so, then we start looking at other issues.
Yep. So proper follow-up. We've got an episode. Actually, I didn't look up the number. We have an episode specifically on follow-up.
Yes, we do.
Somewhere. In the not too distant past.
You only have to scroll back 300 episodes.
Yeah. So, hey, those are 6 extremely important things new people want that churches easily miss. I would wonder would you rate yourself on these things? And don't assume just because you know the church and you know the people that it is fine. A new person, any one of these things can stop them from coming or stop them from coming back. And these are things that are easily missed and also easily fixable with proper thinking through.
Yes.
So hopefully that was helpful. Again, we've talked about a lot of stuff on here. The website stuff we've talked a lot about. So the churchco.com, you can learn about all their different stuff that they do, how they offer it. churchco.com/practical, or just put practical in the promo code when you check out to get 40% off 2 years, which is the best deal you'll find anywhere. A lot of places will give you like 3 or 6 months if you're a church plant, if you're doing that. And Easter's coming up, so make sure you do that.
Yes.
Also on our end, practicalplanting.com to get that social media guide. And if you're on Facebook, the Practical Church Planting Group, you can join that. People are asking questions there.
Yeah,
and hopefully that's helpful. So thanks for listening, and we'll be with you next week on Practical Church Planting.